everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOCReader, and welcome back to my channel. My last video was a life update. Today I'm back with a reading update, and let me just say, May is flying by. I cannot believe we're already halfway through the month already. I really am trying to catch up on my TBR, and if you followed my last update, you know that I quit the job that I was working. I'm currently looking for a new job. I have a couple of interviews lined up, so I took a few days just to relax and get my mind in order, and now I want to get back into reading while I continue to be on the job hunt. Here's what I've been reading so far during the month. The first book was a carryover book from the month of April that I had borrowed through the library. It is Dark Laboratory on Columbus, the Caribbean, and the Origins of the Climate Crisis by Tao Legoff. I've been following Tao Legoff for years now. I started following her in either 2020 or 2021 on Twitter. She would make these posts about her making vegan Jamaican food. So that first piqued my interest, and I do have a cookbook, the name I can't remember right now, on my shelf that she did contribute to as well. So I started following her that way, and then I really was enjoying hearing her talk about colonialism. So in this book, she decides to talk about the link between the climate crisis and colonialism. It was a very interesting read, and there were a lot of facts about different countries, different climate events I had never heard of. So I definitely learned a lot while reading. My only issue was it wasn't always as seamless of a read as I wanted it to be. I didn't always feel like she argued her thesis well, because it kind of skips around a little bit, and she is trying to encompass such a, while these countries are small, it's such a large region with a variety of countries, and I think if she just focused on one specific part of the Caribbean, maybe the Eastern Caribbean or something like that, it would have been better. She talks about several different countries here, and even though the book is split into different chapters and you think, okay, so this chapter is going to be about this chapter is going to be about this, it also jumps around. We'll be talking about one topic, we'll be in a new chapter, we'll call back to this topic, we'll go off a little bit on this topic. At one point she starts making comparisons between other countries that have been colonized outside of the Caribbean. So there was just a lot of information that she was trying to convey in this book. It's still a very interesting read though, and if you are looking for some nonfiction, I suggest checking it out. I listened to the audiobook, so I don't know what the experience would be like reading it with your eyes as well. She is a college professor, so it definitely felt like kind of listening to a lecture, which is fine. I am curious to see more of the work coming out of Dark Lab, which is the concept she's been working with. I believe she also did a Hulu documentary, so I want to go look that up before my Hulu subscription expires. But yeah, overall, very interesting read that gave me a lot to think about. After reading Dark Lab, a couple of library books came in, and at this point I was still working, so I was trying to balance reading while also working overtime, and so I was doing a lot of audiobook listening. I ended up reading The Love Lyric by Christina Forrest. This was gifted to me by Berkeley, and I ended up borrowing the audiobook from the library. So I spoke about the first two books before on this channel. I actually found that this one was the one with the most depth out of all three of them. We're following older sister Violet. She has bore the brunt of like being the older sister, being the most responsible, reliable one. On top of that, she was the first to be married. Her husband was tragically killed in an accident, leaving her as a single mother. So it's just been her and her daughter. She's kind of ignored men when they flirted and stuff with her. And now she's finally at a point where she thinks she's ready to open up herself to love again. Now that brings us to our love interest, Angel. He is an R&B singer. When she first meets him, it's at her sister's wedding or anti-wedding, I can't remember. But she meets at an event for her sister. Her sister hasn't officially taken him on as a client yet and started working with him. He's like very green, very fresh, little cute southern man. And he ends up going on to be this big mainstream R&B singer. But in his heart of hearts, he just wants to be alternative R&B. He doesn't want to write the more poppy music that his record label is constantly pushing him to do. And then he has some guilt because his relationship with his mom is rocky. She does not like the fact that he sings secular music and is like, no, is always trying to shove Jesus down his throat and condemn him for his choices. So there was a lot of depth there. Like I said, I appreciated. I found their story interesting. He and Violet end up having to work together because he becomes the face of a new skincare line targeting men that at the company that she works for. So they end up going on this tour to promote the new products together. And that's after he had tried to impress her by writing this song dedicated to her that ended up getting major airplay on the radio. So they had some good chemistry. I enjoyed like the getting to know you stage. It just kind of like lost me a little bit towards the middle, which is something I think that Christina Forrest needs to work on a little bit, especially with her adult romance. Like, she starts off with these great concepts, but then it's too low angst for how many pages she writes. So there wasn't a lot going on to keep the story flowing, despite them having all these different issues with their family. When they're on the road, you don't really see that. And so also Angel is supposed to be this big mainstream R&B singer, but he never quite gave mainstream R&B to me. He always gave alternative. Like, I don't know if it's just because we were reading his POV, but he also didn't come across like this big known person, because I'm like, honestly, where are the groupies? Where are the really thirsty fans? Like, his fans are like respectable and sweet, and even though he wears disguises to go out sometimes, like, it doesn't seem like he gets bothered a whole lot. And one of Violet's reservations is like, oh, he's this big singer, I don't want to be thrust in the spotlight. I wanted to see her have to deal with the spotlight. We didn't really get to see that except a little bit toward the end, like having to deal with him being on the road for tour, having to deal with like these pushy fans and the women wanting to throw themselves at him and stuff, having to deal with going to the red carpet events and the gossip blogs and stuff like that. So I would have loved to see that aspect, to just amp it up a little bit. But overall, it's a pretty fine, like, enjoyable romance. I still ended up having a good time. And I would say it was like a 3.5-ish. So I thought they were a sweet couple in the end. Speaking of R&B, I also read No Ordinary Love. This is by Maya Ariel, and this also follows an R&B singer as well as a baseball star. And this was inspired by like Mariah Carey and Derek Jeter a little bit, like a fantasy of like what we think them being together would be like, based off of what she told us in her memoir. And Mariah actually gets mentioned here by name a few times, so that was interesting because it's set in our real world. So there's a lot of pop culture references, there's a lot of references to real life people while we're following this fictional singer. So that was interesting to me. Not always a fan of that. And like that, but like that didn't bother me after a while. We are following Ella Simone. She is this big like pop R&B superstar, and she seemingly has the perfect life. When she was young, she married this record producer who really like helped blow up her career and turn her into the star she is. Well, now they are separated and going to announce their separation soon. When she goes to an award show they're supposed to present at, has a wardrobe malfunction. The baseball player that she is presenting with as a part of some deal with like MLB or for some reason, or like ESPN or some reason why athletes were partnering up for this music show. It was kind of like okay, but like she ends up having this wardrobe malfunction. It gets captured. Rumors start flying. She's like, actually no, like we're not a thing. We're just working on this music video together. So then they actually have to do the music video, and from that, the romance is just like a whirlwind. So like 1 minute, Ella and Elliot are just friends, like chilling, trying to get to know each other. The next thing, they are meeting up, trying to be a real couple. At the same time, she's still legally married. Like throughout the whole book, she's still legally married. So if that's not really your jam, like you're not gonna like this one. And he had this relationship that he had like a wife who cheated on him with one of his teammates, so he is newly divorced. It's both like two people trying to heal from bad relationships and find solace in each other. This one really did have me in the first half. Like in the first half, I was really invested. I enjoyed listening to it. I thought they had good chemistry. And then it kind of like lost me a little bit in the second half. I don't feel like certain things got resolved like they should have, and I would have just liked to see a little bit more because I felt like we rushed it too much. I would still check out Maya Ariel again. I do have her debut novel, so I want to go ahead and read that, but this one was just an okay romance to me. Like, thinking on it, I read it a few days ago, I finished, and there's not a whole lot that really stands out. I'm trying to get back on my picture book grind, so this one is The Silver Shadow. It is by Mariessa Dulek and Aaliyah Marley. And it's about this little girl who lives on an island. She stumbles across a tidal pool where she sees a baby shark, and she ends up protecting this baby shark from her brother and his friends who are trying to capture it and sell it. Also like helps keep it wet and stuff until high tide can take it. This is actually a very cute book that teaches children how to respect animals and the environment. It also had like just some really pretty illustrations. Like I think the girls are gonna love, so I want to read that to them. But yeah, like the illustrations I feel like were on point here. It's a great message, great like Earth Day read if you're making up a list of books for that in the future. So overall, I had no complaints. I read Ripening Time. This one is by Patrice Gopo and Carlos Velez Aguilera. And this one is written by a Jamaican immigrant. It was inspired by her childhood. She grew up in Alaska, where you really can't get plantain easily from. So for her, every time they got it, it was like this special treat. So the book follows that anticipation of waiting for it to ripen, and like the checking and making sure it's good, and then like the sensation of frying it and eating it, and like sharing this special meal with your family. I thought that was cute and pretty relatable if you come from like an African or a Caribbean household where plantain is a staple food. Also, I think like the illustrations here were pretty fun. There was some funny moments throughout. So I have a couple of other books like about plantains on my shelf, so I'm gonna add this one to the collection. And this one was gifted to me by Hachette through their Worthy Kids imprint. So right now I'm still reading a few different books, but the one that I want to focus on is Moco Magic by Tracy Baptiste. This one follows three cousins in Brooklyn who find out they are Mocos, which are like protector spirits, and I believe it takes place during Labor Day in Brooklyn, so that's exciting. I've had this one on my shelf for months now, and I'm gonna be honest, the size intimidated me, and I kept pushing it off. But I'm finally ready to sit down and read it, so that's really gonna be my goal for the next few days, is to finish this one out. Let me know how your May has been so far reading wise. I know a lot of us have talked about being very slumpy the past few months and the books not always hitting like they used to. So I'd love to hear like what you're reading, if you've gotten a lot read, if you've gotten a little bit read. Is there anything that really stood out to you? If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!